Okay, hi Amy. Thanks for jumping onto this call to have a bit of a chat about how you found the coaching program. It's been great to work with you during that program, to sort of go week by week and sort of establish where you're up to, how we can help you overcome barriers and sort of find successes in what you do. So, if you wouldn't mind just explaining sort of before joining the program, where were you up to in your career and your business?
So I had set up a clinic in Nottingham and was just in the process of moving from Nottingham to Durham for my other half's job, and was looking at what I was going to do with that, and whether I was going to set up another clinic up here or look at other roles, and kind of a bit stuck in the whole what I wanted to do and where I was going to go from there.
Great. And sort of what are your feelings at that sort of moment in time, obviously when you first joined?
Yeah, stressed, a lot of stress, quite a lot of anxiety around kind of what was the right thing to do. Obviously, kind of the financial elements of running a business and then moving house, and suddenly having a lot more bills to pay for, and what was best career wise, and obviously worked for the needs of what we had at the time. So yeah.
Absolutely. And so obviously you had your first call booked when you came on. How did you feel prior to coming onto that call, and what were your expectations around the call?
I don't know if I had any expectations. Like, I've never done any kind of coaching in this respect before. Like, I've obviously done like coaching at sports and like those kind of things, but not in terms of like work or like lifestyle coaching. So I don't think I had any expectations. I was more a bit unsure of what to expect in a lot of ways, and probably a bit unsure of how it could help when I didn't really have a plan, if that made sense. I didn't have any goals because I was at such a tumultuous stage of life and career.
And so without sort of those expectations then, how did you feel the call was going to go? Did you just want to sort of explore it, or was there something that you really wanted to get out of being on coaching calls?
It was kind of the having that impartial person to talk to, who has been there, kind of done it, and had that, not emotionally involved in making the decisions. Because, as great as family and friends are in terms of motivating you and encouraging you, they don't always quite get it. And so it was nice. The expectations, I guess, or the hope would be to get kind of that guidance of what has worked in the past or would work in the future for me going forward. Yeah, I think that answered it.
Yeah, great. And sort of on that note, then, what were the most valuable aspects of it for you? Because you had access to the platform with the framework and the toolkits, but also the weekly coaching calls as well. So, what was the most valuable aspect for you?
I think the accountability from the coaching calls to do the kind of what we spoke about, the goals we had for the next week, to get, and having that kind of structure of what to focus on for that week really helped. And the toolkits, breaking everything down, like the goal planning sections, made it seem not as daunting to set plans, because it was like little plans, not massive. All right, this is what I want to do in 6 years' time. No, let's do 12 weeks and not do, get carried away.
Yeah, and sort of, you said accountability there. So, how would you sort of describe how I kept you accountable? Because sometimes that can be quite a daunting thing for people to think, oh, someone's going to be keeping me accountable to what I said I was going to do. So, how did that feel for you, and how did I do that for you?
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily as like a pressured thing. But we would chat in our calls and say, all right, over the next week between our calls, these are 3 things we've discussed that I'm going to either look at or work on, or had said I was going to do. And then you kind of, by messaging me after them and writing them down, meant that I wrote them down and I'd see them every day, and actually had like a bit of structure to work towards, more than flapping around and not. And then we'd talk about it in the next call, and then modify them going forward if we needed to, kind of working towards what we'd set at the end of the 12 weeks.
Great. And when we did speak, obviously on that weekly basis, was there any particular call which you thought, oh, like that was a really good call to have, or was there a time where you thought, oh, actually, I really needed that at that moment in time?
Yeah, the one before, well, probably two. The one before I did my first event with the FA, and the one before my first week at the uni. When we spoke about like public speaking and kind of having that, stepping into a different role than I'd ever been in as kind of a clinical supervisor, and having that different thing. And then obviously with the FA one, having those conversations around like imposter syndrome. And I remember being very much like, oh God, I'm the only sports therapist and I'm the only newbie. And, you know, we were going through, actually, no, they've picked you for a reason, like you can do it. And I was perfectly fine. And I'm doing loads more over the next few weeks, which is really exciting. So
yeah, that's great. And obviously that was a new role at a very high level.
yeah.
And so that was really great that you had the opportunity, but also then you went into that with confidence, and you could action that. And as you said, you realized afterwards it actually wasn't probably as daunting as what it needed to be, because you were there because obviously you're a great therapist. So that's why you were there. So if you hadn't had those sort of calls at those points, what do you think you would have done in terms of support?
I mean, even in this, with having those calls, you know, I still relied a lot on like my close support network around me. I'm very fortunate to have another half that works in sport and does get it to an extent. But you know, parents are great. They're teachers. It's a bit of a different world. So yeah, leaning on them is nice and from a personal perspective, but having the coaching for a professional perspective was really, I think, crucial for especially those two events. Yeah.
Okay. And in terms of the program, then, is there anything that you got from the program that you didn't really expect to get?
I think the nice thing about it is kind of the community group bit where we can put not, oh God, I've forgotten the words now, the tabs where you can put things in on the app. I found that really useful in like engaging with other therapists on there that I didn't expect to, because it's not something I'd normally do, but I've made a conscious effort to kind of do. And you know, it's nice to, in a way, sometimes it was me being able to go, actually, like I did it this way to someone else, but and then other times people have done the same to me, going, actually no, why don't you look at it this way, which has been nice. So I think that was something I didn't really expect that from the kind of program.
Super. And then final question from me, Amy, is what would you tell someone who's maybe considering joining the program?
Don't do it because you're scared. Do it because you want to be a better person and be a better therapist. It is scary to ask for help, and I'm glad I did, and would do it again. But yeah, I think you bite the bullet.
Great, thank you very much. And it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the program, and no doubt we'll continue to work together in the future.
I'm sure we will.